Hey guys, today we're going to continue our discussion on the Sermon on the Mount, and today's message is titled, Is God a Good Father? And so the past few weeks I've been listing them off all the time. There's a lot, so not going to do that now, but today we're going to jump right into the message. As we continue on, like I said in the Sermon on the Mount, it starts in Matthew chapter 5, and we're already in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 through 11. And would you like to read that?
Sure. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him?
Yeah, that's really good. So there's a few takeaways that I have from this verse. And so I would say that the main point of this verse is that God is a good father who will treat us as such. So this verse does not mean that we can just name it and claim it, and that we can just say, I want this and I want that, and I'm going to search for gold and riches and all this worldly treasure. That's not what the verse is about. And it also doesn't mean that God is a vending machine or a genie, and that we can just say, our God, give me my 3 wishes, because I'm going to ask, seek, and knock. And that's not how that works. And so we're going to look at the context of this verse here. So the example that Jesus uses for an analogy to describe God is that of a father on earth who loves us. And so Jesus openly admits that these fathers that we have on earth are not perfect and inherently evil. And this is something that we believe in Christianity called the depravity of man. And so goodness comes from God, and because we sinned, the fall of man, which also includes woman, we don't have this like goodness of humanity in us, that goodness comes from God. And so we are all evil apart from God. And so God is even saying, Jesus uses this as an example, that even these fathers who aren't good, they're still doing these things for their kids in a way to benefit their kids because they love them and not just like exploiting them. So we're going to ask you a few questions here today. And so I want you guys to think about these questions too, just like we were asking you. And so, Sarah, why do you think Jesus uses imperfect earthly fathers as an example for God? Like, why, when you think about that in the Bible, like, why do you think Jesus uses God the Father as an example?
Uses God the Father as an example? Or
like the Father, like that, even the name Father.
Because God's a Father. I mean, he's perfect, but...
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. So, answer...
I have no idea.
You have no idea? Why do you think, okay, when you think of your own father on earth, like, Jesus is using that as an example for what God is like, even though he's openly admitting it's not a perfect example?
Well, when I think of my father, he loves me,
yeah,
and he gives me gifts.
Yeah.
Good gifts.
What else does he do other than giving you gifts?
Discipline me when he did.
Yeah.
And, yeah, stuff like that. Like, he's not perfect, though. But I have a good dad.
Yeah, he has a good dad, and he raised you and stuff. And so I actually preached a sermon not too long ago at Rockside about the family of God. And one of the things that I talked about is the example that we have that God gives for earthly fathers. And, if you were born into a great family, there's so much that we can learn about God from that family, even though it's not perfect. But then a lot of people were born into a bad family or a family that wasn't even there. And so what we can even learn from that is that that's not how that's supposed to be. That there's this absence, that something's missing, and it's like the God-shaped hole that's in us. And so we realize that something's off, and that's not how it was meant to be. And so maybe for you guys, we have an awesome dad, and that can be a really good example for what God is like in just one aspect of the relationship. But maybe you guys don't have a great dad, or you don't have a dad at all that's in your life. And so that can just be this void, and you realize that that's actually not how it's meant to be at all. And so it makes us realize that when we're apart from God, or when God's not in our life, that's not meant to be like that either. And so you want to ask this question to me now?
What is Jesus telling us to do?
All right, so when Jesus is going over this verse here, he's basically telling us to do 3 things: ask, seek, and knock. So he's not telling us to beg, complain, and whine, or ignore God and just wait and just hope that fate will bring us something. So if you desire a job, ask, apply, seek out places, and knock on doors of businesses. if you are looking for something in life, you will get it by being active. Asking is the praying, and seeking is the prep, and knocking is the action. And so that's the way that I like to look about it here. So remember in Willy Wonka, do you know how to pronounce her name? Rusha Salt. Yeah, did I say it right?
I think so.
Okay, so if you remember in Willy Wonka, there's the girl who's like the bad egg, and so she tells her daddy, "I want it now. Like I want it. And like I watched that movie even as a kid. I'm like, my kids aren't gonna be like that. Like I'm like, whoa, like, and I like even today I'm like, Sophia, Emily, like you're not gonna be like that. Like I'm gonna bless you, but not spoil you. And so remember, there's the girl that says, I want it now, and her dad kept giving everything to her every time she would ask. And so you're thinking, like, why is she like that, Sarah? Why are you yawn?
I'm tired. I'm sorry.
I was like, what? It's okay. This is like 10:40 p.m. for us after the girls are in bed. So I love you. But you watch the movie and you're like, why is this girl like so mad? Like, I want it now, and like she's so upset. I was like, Daddy, get it for me. And it's like then you realize, is it really her fault, or is it really her dad's fault that she's like that? You could easily say it's both. But in reality, it's the dad that's spoiling her. And so here's this question for you, Sarah. How does God differ from the father who gives their kids everything they want?
He doesn't give us everything that we want because he knows that everything that we want is not always everything that's good for us.
Yeah, I would say that there's a big difference between want and need.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to ask me this question.
Do you have prayers that you have prayed that God has not answered, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I've definitely prayed to God before and asked certain specific prayers and have not had them answered. Either like it was delayed and then didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, or it was just like, he didn't say no, but it was like I knew it was a no. And so there's quite a few prayers that I prayed to God that I realized that I'm glad that he didn't answer those, but in the moment I was pretty upset. In the moment I was disappointed, but when I look back with the benefit of time, and I can see how God knew exactly what he was doing. And so like I said, there's many prayers in my life that I'm glad I didn't answer. Like if I liked a girl in high school, it's like, God, please let me end up with this girl. And then I realized that God was like, no, you're dumb. What does he say in the Bible? You're a pitiful, wretched, naked, and blind. Something like that, like, no, like, Sarah's here. Like, so I'm glad he didn't answer that prayer. And there's other prayers that I've prayed, like, God, help me get this job, or help me do this, or, and there's certain things that I wanted in life that I thought would have been best for me. But him being a good father knew that sometimes the best thing to do to answer in prayer is to say no in a loving way. And even when I prayed those prayers, I drew closer to God because I was talking with him. And so, Sarah, do you have prayers that you prayed that God has answered?
Yes. Yes, I have. What do you want me to say?
Tell them.
Think of a specific
France.
one. Yeah, that's...
You tell them, not me.
I prayed for years about where we were supposed to go for missions, and God finally answered that after like 5 years.
It was even longer for me because I was called to missions in like 6th grade. You want to tell them how he told us?
That's a really.
You don't have to tell the whole story. God basically gave us each of us a vision, and so that was really cool. And it was like, even then I was still like skeptical, like, is this you, God? Like, or did I just think I saw what I saw? And then Sarah saw that as well, and then we talked to each other and showed each other Post-it notes, and I was like, there's no way she's gonna say France because we had never talked about France, and we talked about a lot of different other countries, and it was France, and I was like, and then God continued to confirm that in our lives. But a lot of other times, I would say in my life too, that God has answered my prayer, and so he does answer prayer. Like, he literally gave Sarah and I a vision when we were asking him, and it took years to pray, but he did. And so if God really is a good father, he's not going to spoil us, but rather he's going to bless us at the appropriate and healthy amount. And so when we pray to God and he answers our prayers, the end result is for us to draw closer to God. And the point of all this is to pray and ask God and then do something about it. So many people say that God isn't answering prayers, but to quote NF, it's hard to answer prayers when nobody's praying to you. Are you praying to God, Are you seeking Him? Like, so I want you guys to we'll stop for a moment. I want you guys to think about these questions right now. Like, are you actually praying to God, or are you just sitting there thinking like, well, He just answered my prayers, but like you're not actually praying? Like, are you praying to God? Are you seeking Him? Are you knocking on the door of His heart? And I'll say that we should seek the giver rather than the gift. Do you want to add anything with that? Sarah's so sweet. We really do miss you guys. I want to just say right out there, like, we really wanted to come back in person and all that, and then like, I mean, I called it, just what was happening, and like everything in the world, like in places opening back up, and I was like, yeah, the virus is gonna come back, and so, you guys are awesome, and that we really are here for you guys. But I want you guys to think about those questions. I wish I could see you guys in person and encourage you guys. But I'm really glad that we're even able to do this and encourage you guys over this time. And if you guys need prayer for anything, please talk to us, call us. If you want us to just drive by your house and talk like a few feet apart, we'd be glad to do that. But we want you guys just to think about these things, about praying to God and just seeking His face. And I'll just end with this here, that God is a good Father. He really is. If you didn't have a good Father, I'm sorry. But God is a good Father. And He loves us. Regardless of what you're facing, you're not alone. God loves you. Even when our fathers are not perfect here on earth, God is in heaven. And so I just want to say, have a good night, guys. Thank you for watching. We miss you.